Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Halima Begum, and as my day job, I work for Dial Global as Diversity, Belonging, Inclusion Manager. I guess for me, my journey started straight from school. So straight from school, I didn't follow the mainstream route into education. At the age of 17, after leaving school, my dad, a traditional Bengali family conservative, took me to Bangladesh and I got married at the age of 17. And that kind of pivoted the way the rest of my career would go. After I came back from Bangladesh, I started to work. I had like a Marks and Spencer part-time job working in the daytime. Then by evening, I was working in a contact centre for the Co-op Group. I'm working as part of the Co-op Group, who are a Manchester-based organisation. They're really committed to community. And this is where I first kind of started to do volunteer work. And what the Co-op used to allow us to do is take 2 volunteer days, take teams and do lots of community events. So as a team manager in the contact centre for a period of about 10 years, I used to lead teams into local places in Manchester, like, those of you that are from Manchester would know, like Debdale Park, elderly people homes, all those. We'd kind of do gardening renovations, we'd have parties for elderly people so that they don't feel lonely and they know who to talk to. And that kind of started to, I started to get a real buzz from doing that. And actually it started to align to the values, my Islamic values of, sadaqah and working in charity. And I continued to do that. And then moving into the head office role at the Co-op as Learning and Development Manager. And then it went into co-found the Race Ethnicity Network at the Co-op. So again, working with lots of Muslims, working with the ethnic minority community at the Co-op. And I started to take advantage of opportunities, I guess. And because I didn't follow that mainstream route, I always felt there's gaps in my CV. And I'm like, what else can I do to enhance it? And how do I, compete with the people? Like the first panel this morning, we had like people from Oxford University. I'm working in a head office where people have got really great education. You sometimes kind of feel, oh, what am I doing here? I'm born and brought up in a council estate, GCSEs, and then you think, okay, so what can I do? So every time there was opportunities, I started to put my hand up. And one of the opportunities I found out about working at the Co-op was there was a board chair role at Diversity Matters Northwest, a Hyde-based charity. And I guess because of my experience as, a Bengali person getting married really early in my education, and then having to go through the divorce process, there's a lot of stigma and taboo around it in that South Asian community. So I wanted to work for the charity which kind of empowers South Asian women to talk about, their journeys, helps them to be independent, go into education, go into the workplaces. So I supported that charity. And then from there, again, I really wanted to give back in the local community. I wanted to be heard. And then I went on to Greater Manchester Combined Authority. So Andy Burnham, our mayor, was looking to set up a women and girls equality panel. And again, I wanted us to have a voice around the table about what it's like to be a Bengali woman, a Muslim woman. What are the policies that we can affect? What are the changes we can do? So I took on the role as chair of the Combined Authority Women and Girls Network and talking about some of the challenges we face. I worked with Greater Manchester Police, Greater Manchester Fire Services, and started to advocate for the work that, some of the barriers that we face as women, and then the gender-based violence as well. The other thing that the Co-op Group really do well is they have co-op academies. So one of the other roles, again, another volunteer opportunities, and one of those that can't say no, basically. So they needed co-op people to go into the co-op academies and be governors. So once again, at this point, I hadn't had my little boy, and I was like, actually, this is going to prep me to be a mother in the future. When I have a child, I'll know the school system. And again, it was my knowledge that actually I've not gone through mainstream education and I want to know more about schools. So I took on the chair of governor role for Manchester-based high school. And then after I had my little boy, I'm a single mum of our 6-year-old now, and the chair of governors at his primary school. So again, that role in the community of like, how do we create community cohesion between the school my son goes to, I went to as well, like 30 years ago, and we were only about 3 or 4 Bengali families, South Asian families in that school. But it's really diverse now, and we've got a really diverse community. But there's also a barrier between the community and who are not necessarily, English isn't the first language, a lot of Bengali mums there, a lot of Pakistani mums, so it's how do we connect them to the school so they are aware of the curriculum. I started to do a lot of that, and then again, just looking for those opportunities. In my day job, I work in D&I, and then there was an opportunity to be anti-racism lead for refugee action. So again, took on that opportunity, and for me, all of these opportunities align to my Islamic values about how can we give back. Alhamdulillah, I've got the privilege now to be in circles where we are making decisions, where we are represented. And I want to be able to work with, like, you know, young Muslim girls, Muslims within the different areas to see that they can be represented as well. So I guess this is what drives me to work outside of the core 9 to 5, those evening phone calls, travel to London for board meetings or be in those chair meetings, because I know it's really important for our voices to be heard, but also represent all those voices, grassroots, that aren't in those positions.
I think that deserves a round of applause, don't you? Just one quick question. How do you balance having a son and working and all these roles? How do you balance everything?
Chaotically. Yeah, it is tough, but you know what, alhamdulillah, I've got a really close family. My mom, my siblings, they're all there. And I think one of the things I learned from my Islamic education is Allah puts risk in our time. So that risk comes in the time. I don't know how I work a full-time job, do these extra roles, and actually do a lot with Musa. But because my intention is to work hard for Allah, make our voices be heard and do good for people, I feel like there's always risk in my time that I'm able to contribute.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm a chartered civil engineer by profession. I'm a director with one of the global engineering consultancies, and I provide advice to government on transport infrastructure, long-term transport projects. And in my role, I often appear as an expert witness at public inquiries. I've appeared at a parliamentary select committee, given evidence there. But I've done various roles outside of my workplace. One of the first ones, I guess, when my children were at primary school, and I've got a number of grandkids now, so this is going back quite a while. I think my father once went to pick the children up from school and he stitched me up. So I got a call from the school and I ended up being a school governor for 6 years, following a direct approach. And then a few years later, my wife got very sick, and so we used to spend a lot of time at the hospital. And I saw an ad in the national papers for a non-executive director at a local hospital trust. So I decided to do that and maybe get involved, because we were living in a sort of an inner city area, a very large Muslim community. We know all the health inequalities, so I got involved. I applied. After an interview, I got selected. So I did 3 years as a non-executive director at an inner city NHS trust, and that was quite interesting. Again, it's one of those areas where you have an awful lot of responsibility. Your decision making, you're holding people to account. And you're affecting policy that affects delivery to the local community and the patients. I ended up chairing the mental health appeals panel, which again was pretty daunting to start with, but again, very good experience understanding the issues around, you know, the mental health aspect of people's needs. And you had the sort of the crazy people who are very obvious, but then you had the very bright, the educated, very people who could make a very good argument, and you're having to decide whether they can be released from a prison effectively, because those people are being sectioned. So again, great experience. And to me, it's not just about the giving, it's actually helps you in your careers as well. I think if you're in a professional industry, you can get so far by being good at what you do, whether it's your technical expertise, whether it's your specialism. But I think beyond that, to get to, you know, sort of beyond middle management, it's really about your decision-making ability and how you can influence other people. And I think roles beyond the workplace, where whether it's a school governor, whether it's a non-exec director, or whether it's a trustee at a charity, you're in those positions where you're making decisions, where you're actually taking decisions, and that can help you in your own careers. So that was all a while ago. Most recently, I'm a trustee, board director at a local mosque, Cheadle Mosque in South Manchester. Quite a progressive mosque, very well known across the country for the great work that's done there. and I'm very proud to be part of that. Been living in the area for 25 years. It was my local mosque. I wasn't very involved until about 10 years ago, roughly. I think they wanted to apply for planning permission to redevelop the mosque. The mosque is in a greenbelt area. Traffic chaos on the Fridays at Jummah time and Tarawih time. So many issues. They put in a planning application. It got huge opposition. I mean, there were people in Hong Kong who were writing Facebook posts about the opposition to the masjid. And it was a chance conversation with a senior officer at the council who I did a lot of work with, that they found out that it's my local mosque. And they said, well, why don't you go and sort them out and help them out? Long story short, we pulled the application, we redid it, and having gone from a position where the council was opposed to it, we had a supportive council. We got the application through, and the new masjid was built, and it's been in use for 18 months now. So alhamdulillah, that was part of saying, look, you know, you live in you're a masjid in an area where there's lots of professionals. Why don't you reach out and ask the congregation or anybody can help us in these areas? And so really for me, it's about giving back. It's about using my expertise to help our community. And really just, I suppose it's a way of thanking Allah for the good that we've had and the opportunities we've had to maybe help somebody else to get those same opportunities as well.
Brilliant. Just one quick question, and that is, tell us a little bit about the volunteers that you've grown in your masjid, because you started with very minimal volunteers. How did you get people involved?
Yeah, so alhamdulillah, I don't know whether we're very different from other masjids, but certainly in our masjid we've got, I think on a regular basis, something like over 200 volunteers who get involved in a whole range of different activity. The masjid is busy all the time, whether it's the evening madrasas, the Islamic classes, whether it's the jiu-jitsu classes, the new Muslim revert classes, the women and children groups. You know, there's an awful lot of activity that goes on, and the vast majority of that is run by volunteers. So we're blessed in the community we live in. And I think really it's a case of people see that success, people see that camaraderie, that social sort of space, social engagement, and people generally want to get involved. And I think it's, you know, if somebody, you know, if you've got a masjid in your area, you're not involved. If you've got a passion to do something, just make your interest known and talk to people, because I'm sure they'll be welcoming with open arms.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to be here, Hassan and Consortium group. My name's Nadia. I'm a part-time consultant orthodontist in Rotherham Hospital, and I also work part-time in private specialist orthodontic practice. So I graduated from dental school in 2007, and then I followed a hospital career path, so I never went into general dentistry. In addition to that, outside of my work, my passion I recently discovered is having certified as a life coach. I'm starting to run workshops for professionals and writing articles for the online dentistry magazine and the British Dental Journal in Practice magazine as well. I've held a number of committee roles, and I think that's one of the main things that I'm going to be talking about, is holding positions on professional committees within your own career so that you can give back to your colleagues and have that opportunity to have a voice as well. So my more recent roles, as Badru Salama said, is chair of the British Dental Association CCHDS Hospital Dentist Committee, and I was nominated into this role in 2022, and that was for 2 years, so that finished last year. I'm also secretary for the British Orthodontic Society Specialist Group, and I held a lot of committee roles throughout all of my career. So when I was reflecting on this, I realised it started from my first day at dental school when I was nominated year rep, and I think after that I always enjoyed some kind of committee role. So I've held something almost every year when I was thinking about that. In addition to this, I really enjoy teaching, so I am involved in teaching for postgraduate dentists and general dentists as well, who want to know more about orthodontics. Involved in writing a book at the moment, and in terms of things outside of work. I volunteer as a leader for our local Muslim Scouts group. And also have been to Pakistan. Last year I was very lucky to have the opportunity to go to Gujarat to be with the British team who were there for providing treatment for children with cleft lip and palate, which was an absolutely incredible experience. I don't think we realise how lucky we are, as much as our NHS is faced with challenges, that we do have access to basic healthcare, which was apparent there that people were travelling for hours, almost over a day. Some of these people were travelling from the villages in the north of Pakistan to get to this hospital. So that was a great opportunity, and definitely one that I'll take away skills that are transferable from my own work to other roles that I've done. And I think that's one of the key things that I would answer the question in terms of what does this mean. To me, it means using the skills that you've got in your own day job to be able to do something else and give back to your community, because we can't underestimate the power of giving back to our community and the things that we can do outside of work. And ultimately for me, it's about trying to be a role model and inspiring younger generations as well, to see that there can be Muslims in leadership roles and empowering them to step forward and to take on these roles, so that we take away the more traditional picture of more senior figure, male, Caucasian, and to really encourage people to more roles like that.
Thank you. Just on that last bit about, do you want to say a little bit about feeling imposter syndrome and how you've coped with that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things we all talked about when we spoke before preparation for this was imposter syndrome. So having doubt over our own ability or our own accomplishments. And I think like I'm sure many in this room, if not everybody, have felt imposter syndrome at some point. And I think it's important in times like that to realise that you can believe in yourself and to think about all of the things that you have accomplished, and that always helps to think of the wins that you have had, so that you can move forwards and overcome any challenges that you might face. And ultimately, for me, it's about having tawakkul and your faith in Allah, that ultimately we're so lucky that our faith plays a big part in our lives when we are faced with challenges or moments of self-doubt. And also to look at those around us and be blessed with family and friends who do support us in those kind of moments. And I'm very fortunate that my parents, siblings, brother and sister and husband are those who do champion those things that I do and support me to take on some of these roles as well.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to give you an opportunity for the audience in 2 minutes' time to ask any questions. I'd like you to think about any questions you want to ask the panel generally, or any individual questions that you have. And in order to do that, I'm going to give you 2 minutes again to talk to one another and organise so far what's inspired you, but also any questions that you might have. So another 2 minutes, I'll interrupt people around you, if that's okay. Has anyone got any general questions? Yes. Could you say your name? Anissa.
Yeah. In terms of like a general question to anyone on the panel, obviously our 9 to 5s are perhaps getting a bit more increasingly like workforce for the amount that we pay. So it is hard to find time to volunteer. From your personal experiences, how did you balance the start of your career with volunteering opportunities?
Would you like to take that?
I'll go. I think going back to where I started, it was really useful because my employer already had volunteering within their organisation. But as I've come on now to any new jobs I go to, that's kind of one of the things I look for. So I look at what their values are in terms of their website, what do they promote? Is there any opportunities to kind of do things outside of the job? And at interview process, I'll always say, I'm involved in X, Y, and Z. Are you supportive of this? Because I want to do this. And then I'm already making them aware. And I guess at that point, especially that interview, because don't forget, when we're interviewing for organisations, we're also checking out, are they the right fit for us? And if your employer is not going to give you that flexibility to kind of do those things outside of your role, then is that the place that you want to work for? And a lot of the time in the last panel I talked about, as Gen Z and millennials going into the workplace, these are the things that we're looking for employers. It's not sufficient for you to just pay us now. We want to be able to contribute to the community, and the organisation's corporate strategies around sustainability, around social impact, all of those kind of play into that. So it's always kind of looking into that and being transparent as part of your work to let them know, I want to take part. It's part of my growth and development. Will you support it?
Yeah, I'd really echo that. I think a lot of organisations now, they value volunteering, but one of the things you need to bear in mind is when you're volunteering, you can do as little or as much as you like. It's not a commitment that you have to do X number of hours every week. So my employer, for example, they will give every member of staff up to 2 days off on volunteering. And they encourage that because a lot of corporate social responsibility, as Alina just said, it fits in with the corporate sort of the social value aspects around nowadays. So employers are supportive, I think, but as I say, balance it in terms of your work-life balance, what you can do in terms of volunteering, as little as much, and maybe it starts off as just a few hours a week, but it can grow over time as you get more established in your careers.
I'd say, in addition to what the others have said, looking at your own professional networks first, so there might be something that you could do that's actually connected to your own work, so it might not take away too much time because it could be connected to what you're already doing. Fortunately, in a medical field, if anyone is in a medical field, British Islamic Medical Association are amazing in the amount of things that they do. So a lot of the things that I've done, I didn't mention earlier, but doing some of their workshops or delivering training within mosques in local areas. Those kinds of things only happen once a year, so it's actually not taking a huge amount of time away from what you're doing. It might be something that's already within your role. Outside of that, I'd say really look at how you can stop your 9 to 5 going into your 5 to 9, because I think fundamentally it's about looking at that first and making sure that that's not impacting on your own time, which we're all guilty of. It's easier said than done, but that will free up your time to do something that you're more passionate about. When you do find that, then it makes it really enjoyable if you've got something else to look forward to. It doesn't have to be on an evening, it could be on a weekend or whichever time fits in for you.
Thank you. I'll just add sometimes, especially when you're starting off, it might be quite hard to find volunteering roles, and I know people who found it really frustrating where they've sent CVs and they want to volunteer, but you need to keep persevering and talk to family and friends and speak to people who are volunteers and see whether you can get it that way, but eventually you will do, inshallah. Any more questions generally? Yes. What's your name?
Fatma. We were just talking about the board and trustee experience that you guys were referencing. It did seem like all of you had experiences that somewhat related to the work that you were already doing, or something that kind of came across, and that's where you started that kind of work. But what would you say to someone who hasn't necessarily got an organic connection that they can leverage? Like, how do they come into that world?
And look at what outside of your work you're interested in. So it could be something completely not related to what you're doing. If you enjoy working with children, think about what work is in your local area that could be with children. I love working with kids, and it's part of my own job. Being an orthodontist, most of my patients are children. That's how I connected to the Scout group, and I chose the youngest group within the Scout. So I do Beavers, which is like 6 to 8 year olds, and that's my favourite age group to work with. But you might connect more with older people. There'll be loads of charities that could be working with the elderly. Do you enjoy sitting talking to people? Do you prefer a background role? Think about what your personality type is and what fits in for you as well, because there's so many charities. If it's a governor or a school, it depends on what you're interested in, so have a think about that as well.
I'm not sure there's a great deal to add to that. I think, a lot of the roles, so we talked about school governors, for example, you don't need a particular skill set to become a school governor. You have to have a kid in the school, a child in the school, and then have an interest in their educational well-being and the wider educational well-being of the other children. So you don't necessarily need to have a particular skill set that's related to the volunteering activity you want to do. The example I gave as the volunteers at our masjid, for example, they do a whole range of activities. So it's from people helping to fill the masjid at Jummah time and get them out and guiding people in the masjid. That's just a very small role. There are other roles where, people leading certain types of classes, that's related to a skill they have. But there's a whole range of roles that you don't have to have a particular skill set. It's a desire to help people, somebody who can empathize with people, because quite often people might have issues and problems. They want somebody to just help them, guide them, whatever. So, some people skills. You don't have to have a particular sort of technical or professional skill, but some basic people skills. And there's a lot of volunteering roles that you could get involved with, and just go out and ask, I think.
I guess finally, I'd just say, organisations are always looking for diversity of thought, because sometimes the people that end up on boards, they all might, if they're all subject matter experts in one field, you start to get like an echo chamber of voices. A lot of organisations are trying to be innovative, are trying to get young people's voices as well, because again, there's like this stereotype of that you got to be from a certain background or certain, quite experienced and advanced in your career to be on boards. But there's things like young members boards that you can be part of, bringing the youth voice in from your communities, all of those. I think it's a matter of kind of looking at all the opportunities available and what resonates with you.
Thank you very much. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Any more questions or any specific questions? Oh, talk about.
Thank you. I know it's a great topic, and I hope I didn't experience development. But there's one part which is our people's passions in the kind of creative areas. Is there any advice or anything for those pursuing their own passions in creative arts or media as a service or selling products? So anything that helps with their motivation, where it might be quite learning and arts and
So I guess, especially volunteering in the charity sector, a lot of the time they have very low budgets. So because they've not got a lot of budgets, they can't really employ people who've got lots of experience in different fields like the creatives. And the ones that have got lots of experience, they're probably looking for high-paid jobs. So if you want to volunteer and enhance your skills, volunteering as part of that and giving the charities your skills is really valuable, because charities can't spend a lot of money. I work for Refugee Action, and again, some of those skills, even in business in the community, which again, it's a charitable organisation, those skills are rare, so they want to attract more people, but most of the time people go to high-paying organisations. So looking for those opportunities where you can contribute and it's voluntary opportunities, charities would definitely snap you up.
Just a very last question. I'm sorry, because that hand was up first, and this is the last question. I'm happy to sort of go afterwards, but yeah.
You diversity in your legacy role, because in your day-to-day role, you come across problems, you deal with the problem because it's part of your bread and butter in your sites of life networks. When you come across adversity in your 5 to 9 role, it's more easier path to more just letting go of it and saying let's follow some path of life,
Perfect.
and I guess just to that, you mentioned Scouts, like an example, we set up a Scouts organisation in our locality, but we had more Latin churches than we had masjids. And, when we asked what the masjids were for, purely solar, no kids, and then you ask yourself, that kind of adversity, how do you overcome that? Without just talking about it.
Thank you very much for that. If you've got a brief answer on it, because we need to stop in a minute.
I'll take it.
Sorry. Thank you.
I'd say use the transferable skills, like I said before, that you've got in your own work, because ultimately most of us work with people and have to deal with difficult people and difficult situations. So in a case like that, it's difficult to feel like the mosques that are the ones that you want to be able to approach for that kind of activity can't take it on. But think about why. Is it because they've not got enough space, or just because they don't really understand what you're doing? So take the opportunity to go and speak to them so they understand more about it and how it will bring people together, bring more of the community together. And if they understand that, then they should be able to support more. If they haven't got the space, obviously that's a different matter, but often church halls tend to have open kind of spaces, maybe that's why some of them have been more amenable. But I think it's about actually making our mosques understand what these projects do and the importance of that. Our scout group doesn't just bring the kids together, it's brought together all the parents in that area who would never otherwise have met. I've met people who I wouldn't have otherwise have met, and it's like all different ages as well. It's not just one generation. Very fortunate, alhamdulillah, I get to volunteer with my mum when I go to Scouts. So, you know, it brings so many people together that it's about education for the mosques, but overall adversity or difficult situations, the skills that you already have, and tap into those so that you can try and overcome some of those kind of challenges.
Thank you very much. Just finally, almost finally, one word of wisdom we're going to hear from each panelist.
Say yes to opportunities.
Sorry?
Say yes to
So
opportunities.
yes to opportunities. Shall we all practice that? What are you going to say? Yes. Hold on, do it again. What are we going to all say? Yes. Perfect.
I'm not sure it's the one word, but I would say just go out and, you know, make people aware of your interest, ask the questions, get involved, because there's an awful lot of reward and self-fulfillment you get from giving back.
Again, not one word. What do you want to be remembered for? Mine would be, don't be defined by your day job, and think about what are the difference you can make with the skills that you've got from the career and the education that you've been blessed to have, and how you can take that outside of your day job and inspire the next generations to take on roles and definitely break barriers. How can we get more Muslims into leadership roles and the kind of things that we've been describing today?
Thank you very much. I do these on so many apologies. Can we have one round of applause for that?